Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yugioh Everything, and welcome back to another What Makes a Duel special video. In today's video, we are going to be looking at our first Rush Duel for this video series, and that is my favorite duel in Yugioh Go Rush, and maybe my favorite Rush Duel of all time, Yudias versus Kuaidul, Round 2, Episodes 88, 89, and 90 of Yugioh Go Rush. I absolutely loved this duel, and if you're unfamiliar with this series, we take a deep dive into a specific duel and talk about what made it so special. Before we get into the video, I would like to thank today's video sponsor, Into the AM. Into the AM sells really cool graphic design shirts, jeans, and anything that fits the vibe you're looking for. And coming up is Memorial Day, and with Memorial Day usually comes some Memorial Day plans. Now, I'm sure most of you can't really picture me grilling on the back deck, but I do like to go to some Memorial Day parties, and having a cool, relaxed shirt design is very important for those parties. Right now, Into the AM is having a site-wide sale, 25 to 70% off until June 1st. This is a perfect time to grab yourself a really high-quality piece of clothing for a really low cost. And if you use my discount code in the description, you get an additional 10% off on top of the percentage off that you get for the Memorial Day sale. Even if you're outside the USA, do not worry, because Into the AM ships worldwide. With all those summer weekend barbecue parties coming up, trust me, you will not regret it. Link is in the description. This duel takes place at the end of the Kuaidul space-time arc number 7 of the show, and arc number 3 out of 4 of Season 2. I don't necessarily think many duels should be talked about in a vacuum, and neither should this one. And what I mean by that is the reason this duel was so special was because of the stakes going into it that was previously laid out in this arc. Kuaidul had only been introduced a handful of episodes ago, and we learned that he was the narrator of the series, the literal narrator that would do those intros and was basically manipulating everything going on in Yugioh Go Rush to his liking. He trapped all of our characters in what's known as the Kuaidul space-time, a weird time zone where all of our characters are stuck in this space that's not actually real, and they're trying to escape it. And the only way to escape it is to beat Kuaidul. Well, Yudias had a chance to beat Kuaidul a few episodes prior to 88 and was unable to do so, losing to him in a duel, which led many of us to wonder if Yudias was actually capable of defeating Kuaidul. I think the way that this duel played out was really, really unique, where Yudias and 39 allies basically dueled against him. While Yudias was the only one dueling, Yudias used one card from 39 other characters in Yugioh Go Rush that were also trapped in the space-time. It's a really interesting premise that made us wonder how his deck was going to have any sort of synergy whatsoever, because if you just take one card from 39 different decks or archetypes, it's going to be really hard for that deck to work, and that was the disadvantage that Yudias was at. Meanwhile, Kuaidul's deck was very similar to Yudias's deck. He plays a prime deck, but all of the prime cards are cards that those 39 characters also contain. They're basically just alternate versions of those characters, and so these two Valgyrian heavyweights were going at it not with identical decks, but with very similar playstyles that did a great job in paying tribute to all of the other characters that were involved in the show. I thought it was a great way to have the cast's impact felt, even though the only two dueling at the time were Yudias and Kuaidul. The duel goes back and forth a little bit, with Yudias kind of struggling to do any sort of real damage to Kuaidul. Kuaidul draws first blood and manages to get Yudias's life points down to 2,600. Finally, on Yudias's second turn, he's able to break through, but only slightly. Yudias is able to deliver a little bit of damage to Kuaidul, lowering his life points to 3,100, but at the same time, Kuaidul also inflicts 1,000 points of damage to Yudias, thanks to the effect of his trap card Prime Ziggurat, and so after the fourth turn, Yudias's life points is down to 1,600, Kuaidul's is at 3,100, and Kuaidul is about to take another turn, which doesn't look good for Yudias. But right before Kuaidul's turn begins, episode 89 comes to an end with the two galaxies starting to show out of these two characters. And I think what made this duel so cool for me, outside of the action, which I thought was stellar, is the storyline that actually happened within the duel. I always talk about how there are two really important elements of a duel, at least for me, when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh! The duel itself and the story being told within it. And I thought not only was the duel really good, but the story was excellent. We learn at the start of episode 90 that Yudias and Kuaidul are basically sibling galaxies. Every single Valkyrian has a galaxy within them. Kuaidul knows this because he was very, very close with the creator. He was actually the first Valkyrian, and Yudias has the Milky Way galaxy within him. Kuaidul has the Andromeda galaxy within him. The two galaxies are, again, right next to each other in the universe, and Kuaidul is very jealous of Yudias because he has the Milky Way galaxy, which was the birthplace of the creator. Kuaidul never quite understood why Yudias was given the Milky Way galaxy and he wasn't. And Kuaidul is basically being driven out of jealousy to go after Yudias and to try and ultimately take over Yudias. We learn in this duel that Kuaidul's ultimate goal, as his life is starting to deplete and come to an end, is to take over Yudias's body and basically become the new Yudias. That's why he was so obsessed with Yudias throughout Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush. And it looks really bad for our main character as Kuaidul takes his next turn. He gets his full armor Nova to 9,000 attack, one of the highest attack stats we have seen in Rush Yu-Gi-Oh! And is attacking Yudias directly. But Yudias is saved by his trap Ambiguous Journey Show, which increases Kuaidul's life points by the attack of the attacking monster. Yudias has to send the top two cards of his deck to the grave, and if those two cards are the same level, he takes control of the attacking monster until the end of the next turn. So Kuaidul's life points become 12,100, which I believe is the highest we've seen in a Rush Yu-Gi-Oh!, but don't quote me on that. And Yudias miraculously sends two monsters that have the same level off the top of his deck to the graveyard to take control of full armor Nova. It's one of the biggest heart of the card moments you could ask for, and it quite literally saves Yudias and everyone's lives, as they are not necessarily condemned to the space-time, and it gives Yudias a chance to win. The opening music hits, and you know when the opening hits, you're on track, usually for a Yu-Gi-Oh! Protagonist win. Yudias takes what ends up being the final turn with full armor Nova on his side. Through a bunch of effects, he's able to give the stolen full armor Nova 2 attacks, thanks to sending Blue Fang Burst Dragon and Darkness Joint Tech Tyrant from the top of his deck to the graveyard. Full Armor Nova attacks, does piercing damage as well, and Kuaidul loses all 12,000 plus life points in one go, giving Yudias the shocking win given the circumstances. I also love that the final two monsters he sent in order to get the attacks off were Yuamu's monster and Yuhi's monster. I think it's fitting that the two twins spiritually come to his aid here against Kuaidul in the form of their monsters. And then Kuaidul goes full crazy. He is fully attacking Yudias as the 39 other characters helplessly watch on, yelling at Kuaidul, basically begging him to stop, as his galaxy is fully overtaking Yudias's with the intention of essentially killing Yudias and stealing his body and his galaxy. And Kuaidul is fully hell-bent on doing this despite losing the duel until Yudias tells him that he is allowed to do this. Yudias says to Kuaidul, hey, if you have to do this, I totally understand. Let's do it. And that gives Kuaidul just a little bit of hesitation, and the two of them start speaking to each other, and Kuaidul realizes what made Yudias so special in the first place. Kuaidul realizes why Yudias was given the Milky Way galaxy and not him. And all of the jealousy, all of the anger and hatred that he had towards Yudias and even the creator to a degree for being the one that got the creator's birthplace galaxy starts to dissipate. And as Kuaidul sheds a single tear, he tells Yudias that Yudias is not able to sustain his ego and seemingly dies. Now, in the moment, this scene was a lot more impactful maybe than it was in hindsight, because Kuaidul is not actually dead. I think a lot of people watching, including myself, felt like this certainly could have been a permadeath. It wasn't, but at the time, it was a super emotional moment. And I would still argue, even with the knowledge of knowing that Kuaidul does not die here permanently, it still is an incredibly powerful moment and just demonstrates how selfless of a character Yudias Velgear is. It reminds me a lot of the Vector Yuma scene, where a villain is finally able to get their revenge on the main protagonist, and the main protagonist says, all right, I'm with you, let's do this thing. And that just totally shakes the villain to their core, to the point where they actually finally start to feel bad and understand the selflessness of the character they've been going after and basically call off their attack. The duel is great, the story is great. It's the best duel in Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush, in my opinion, and it's one that I find myself watching quite often when I'm in the mood for a Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush battle. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you to Into the AM for sponsoring the video. Please let me know all your thoughts on this episode of What Made a Duel Special down below, and please let me know some other duels you would like to see me tackle for this series. There's certainly a lot of them, and hopefully there will not be as long of a break between episodes, but let me know down below in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day. Take care, guys.